Max Verstappen and Toto Wolff's private planes have been seen in Sardinia, and it looks like they're talking about the four-time world champion joining Mercedes, and this is becoming much more likely to happen. Of course, this decision is really hard because Wolff needs to choose between Russell or Antonelli, but with Max showing that he's open to changing teams, will Toto and Mercedes create the biggest shocking news in recent history? And if this happens, what will the sport look like after this huge change? There's no doubt that Wolff wants Max Verstappen on his team, but seeing both of them land in Sardinia is something that proves Wolff wants him even more, not less after Horner left. And this is really important to talk about because when the news came out that Christian was no longer going to be part of Red Bull, it meant one of two things. Either Max would stay completely loyal to the Austrian team, knowing that Horner is now gone, or the team is going into a rebuilding time that would see Max leave too. And the meeting that he and Wolff had in Italy suggests the second thing might happen. There's a big chance that Red Bull knew that Max was going to leave, and they knew that it's all Horner's fault somehow. So if they're going to bring up another young driver there, Lindblad or Hajar, they don't want the same mistake to happen again, but that's for Red Bull to figure out. We're here to talk about the Mercedes moves and how the Silver Arrows could pull the biggest shakeup as we know it. Max Verstappen is at his best right now, and it would make sense for him to be part of a team that's able to win races and compete at the front. That was what happened with Red Bull not that long ago. Remember how they dominated 2023 and how the Dutch driver won 19 out of the 23 races? Well, that is not happening anytime soon. And part of the reason for that is because of all the big departures of important people like Wheatley, Newey, and Kors. And Max probably understands better than anyone else that the direction Red Bull is going in is not going to bring him any more championships, not even a chance to fight up front, so changing teams is the right thing to do. But we can't help but notice the business cruel side of this sport. Verstappen is linked to Mercedes, the team that he hated so much back in 2021, and the seat that almost took his life away in Silverstone when he crashed with a force of 5.1 g. But then again, that's all in the past, and you can now clearly see why Wolff continued to have a good relationship with Verstappen since the controversial finale in 2021. Every shot that has been taken from the Austrian has been aimed towards Red Bull and the FIA. Not a single one was thrown towards Max. Even with the entire Russell-Verstappen drama, Wolff made sure to carefully pick his words. He knew something that we didn't, and now he's ready to act on it. So, what is going to happen in the next couple of weeks after Horner's departure? Well, there has been a slip-up from Nelson Piquet Jr., the former F1 driver and the brother-in-law of Verstappen who spoke about the Silverstone weekend and Mercedes. According to Nelson, there could be a chance that Max will drive for Mercedes next year. One of the Mercedes drivers, Antonelli, is a rookie who also got hit from behind by Isaac Hajar. In any case, it just wasn't Mercedes' weekend. Everyone knows that. What remains to be seen is whether they'll come to an agreement with contracts, but that is an option. Everyone knows that it's being discussed. There are some other things happening that we need to be talking about that support this argument of Max joining Mercedes. One of them is the latest action of Ola Källenius, the CEO of Mercedes. He gave the green light to Toto Wolff and everyone else involved in bringing Max to the Silver Arrows, which means that the earlier disagreement that the board of directors had about Max replacing Russell is now going away. I would argue that Russell needs to defend his position in Mercedes, but I don't know what more he can do at this point. He's won a race. He's scored almost all of the pole positions and race wins that have been scored by Mercedes since 2022, and he's proven to be one of the best qualifiers out there. And all of this is still not enough to keep his seat safe in Mercedes. There is a big conflict of interest in Mercedes right now because they've brought Antonelli in very forced circumstances. Hamilton left suddenly, and there weren't any options that would suit Mercedes' style. Antonelli was supposed to drive a sister team of Mercedes for a couple of years and then follow the path that was made by Russell. However, that didn't happen, and it might have been a blessing in disguise. Still, with Verstappen's availability on the market, there is a lot to be extracted here. There is a big chance that Russell and Verstappen will be teammates in 2026. Antonelli will be put in a Mercedes-related team to develop his skills to a greater extent. And then from 2027 onwards, Antonelli will replace the struggling driver, which everyone expects to be Russell. Everything is on the table, and I don't want to make guesses here. What I just said is just one scenario that could happen amid all of the drama in Mercedes. On the other hand, Russell is the one without a contract, and he's the one who made headlines in the past couple of weeks. So, I don't think Wolff is ready to risk his future with Antonelli just because of this dangerous experiment, Kimi has said, to be the next champion in Mercedes. And although that might change given the preference that Wolff has with Verstappen, there is still one situation that could benefit Antonelli the most. Verstappen is not in love with the latest regulations, and with the ever-growing calendar in Formula 1, now that he's become a father, he is not focused on F1 as much as he was in the past couple of years. So there is a real possibility that he could be retiring in his 30s. If he does that, then Mercedes would give up everything they did for Russell in the past couple of years, just for the sake of the short-term glory that the Dutch driver would bring to the table. Is this risk worth it? Time will tell. But what's next for Mercedes and Red Bull if that happens? Obviously, Red Bull will be the team that we need to feel sorry about. The Austrian team will be in complete chaos, and they would have to rebuild from scratch, possibly including promoting young drivers like Lindblad and Hajar, to see whether they have the potential to be champions once they figure things out from an internal point of view. There is another option as well. Russell could be picked up as a figure to lead Red Bull in new directions, and I don't think that's a bad choice at all. He would be extremely motivated to prove to Mercedes that they were wrong to put Max in front of him, and he would definitely be the #1 driver for a certain period of time. Yep, the future of Red Bull lies with Arvid Lindblad and Isaac Hayar, but neither of them have the experience that Russell has, winning races, scoring pole positions, and fighting with the best of the grid up there. For Mercedes, the headaches are a bit sweeter. If they decide to pair Max and Russell, they'll finally have an answer as to who is the better driver to build around. Although I think the answer to this would be very simple: Max. If they put Max with Antonelli, which is the most common scenario, then it would be a win-win situation. Kimi would be able to learn from Max for the next couple of years, and if Max decides to retire earlier, then Antonelli would be taking over the throne. However, there is a risk here. We know that Max is a literal destroyer of careers. We've seen what he did with Albon and Gasly's careers. Both of these drivers went on to have extremely good careers outside of Red Bull, and that is a great risk that could be imposed on Kimi as well. So Mercedes and Wolff need to be extremely careful what they're wishing for here. With all this in mind, do you think that Max Verstappen should join Mercedes and prove that he can win championships with another squad that's not Red Bull? And if he does that, do you think that he would finally put himself up there as one of the greatest drivers to ever participate in the sport, shutting up the haters who doubt him because of the controversies surrounding 2021 and Red Bull's cheating scandals? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to check out the video that appears on your screen right now. Max Verstappen and Toto Wolff's private planes have been seen in Sardinia, and it looks like they're talking about the 4-time world champion joining Mercedes, and this is becoming much more likely to happen. Of course, this decision is really hard because Wolff needs to choose between Russell or Antonelli, but with Max showing that he's open to changing teams, will Toto and Mercedes create the biggest shocking news in recent history? And if this happens, what will the sport look like after this huge change? But seeing both of them land in Sardinia is something that proves Wolff wants him even more, not less, after Horner left. And this is really important to talk about because when the news came out that Christian was no longer going to be part of Red Bull, it meant one of two things. Either Max would stay completely loyal to the Austrian team, knowing that Horner is now gone, or the team is going into a rebuilding time that would see Max leave too. And the meeting that he and Wolff had in Italy suggests the second thing might happen. There's a big chance that Red Bull knew that Max was going to leave, and they knew that it's all Horner's fault somehow. So by